Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam. Harihi Om. So, let us start. We are on verse number 91. So, verse number 91, interesting verse. He says, Tattva jnanodaya urdhvam prarabdham naiva vidyate. So, very clearly he says, Tattva jnana udayat. Udayat means when the awakening or the rising, right? Uday, the word uday means to rising of the sun. We normally say Suryodaya. So when the uday happens, then and what happens? Tattva jnana. Tattva jnana. What is tattva? Tattva here means what is the reality? Jnana. So when the knowledge of reality happens, then what happens? He says, prarabdham naiva vidyate. Vidyate, there is no existence of prarabdha. There is no existence of prarabdha. Now, in the earlier verses, we had seen very clearly he is talking of the fact that the body is inert and even prarabdha does not dissolve. That is what he said in verse number 90, right? Prarabdham naiva munchati, he said. Now he is saying prarabdham naiva vidyate. Very clearly he says it does not exist. He says dehadinam, meaning out of the bodies. Asatyavat, being unreal, yatha, just as swapna vibodhataha. Now, when we go to sleep, right? And when we wake up, we are clear that I went to sleep, I woke up. That is a clear reality for us. So the three avasthas that we are talking about, the three avasthas are clear. मैं जब deep sleep में हूँ, I have no idea that I am in deep sleep. But when I move from the deep sleep to either the dream state or to the waking state, I am aware of certain things happening. There is a certain awareness. In the awakened state, not the awakened, and in the awake state, Jagrat Avastha, I know that I am awake because of the consistency or the continuity of thoughts or the continuity of things around us. The inputs that I am receiving, there is a continuity. The shrine in my house has not suddenly changed. The surroundings that I am living with have not suddenly changed. So I know that there is a continuity. In the dream state, there is no continuity. So I am aware that there is a dream. Now, see the words I am using. Continuity. If I can wake up from this so-called continuity and see that it is also not continuous, then what will I say about this state? It is also like a dream state. See, what is the difference between dream state and awake state? Dream state and awake state, the difference is only continuity. Everything else is functioning, right? I don't know if you have ever been kicked by your son playing football in his dream, right? Very intensely playing football gives me one nice kick in the middle of the night. Arey, kya hua? Goal! See, his body is also playing. He's fully aware that his body, in his mind, the body, mind, intellect, everything is working. Goal, emotions are there. But when he wakes up, he realizes he's on the bed. When we wake up from the Jagrat Avastha, we realize that this body was only one small instrument in a series of discontinuities. Series of discontinuities. So in the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. Right? Every time we drop the body, we wear new clothes, we wear new clothes, we wear new clothes. We keep on doing this. Acharya says, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So this movement, but our reality has got stuck with the fact that this body is me. I look in the mirror, I comb my hair, I shave my, see, I'm my, right? I comb my hair, I comb my beard. Now, when I use the word my, I have to understand, I own that. I am not that. I am not that. It's a very powerful exercise that Gurudev used to make us do. He would make us hold something. What is that you are holding? Pen. How are you holding? In my hand. Ah, my pen in my hand. I am not the pen, I am not the hand. Because I own that pen, I own that hand. If I'm owning that pen, if I'm owning that hand, I cannot be it. Right? I get into a car, I don't become a car. So similarly, I get into a body and I use that as a tool or a means to go somewhere. But unfortunately, because of our vasanas, we have layered ourselves with identification. So Acharya is very clearly saying, the moment you wake up from this, Uday, what happens Uday? Uday means sunrise. Sunrise, what do we do at sunrise? We wake up. हम जाग जाते हैं. So this waking up is what he is asking for. Yes, Raghuji.
Yeah, so actually, I like Gurudev's explanation on the previous verse. And there is a very nice parallel I can draw to that. See, he says, for the outsider looking at the realized master, going through the travails of life, he can say that is prarabdha that he has to go through. But for the realized master, it has no relevance. And a very nice parallel. See, suppose you are in a spaceship moving at a very high velocity. Your second is still your second. It appears to you as it is the same amount of time. But for somebody outside the spaceship who's not traveling at that same velocity, your second now seems to be much longer. Much longer. There is a complete disconnect, a disjoint in the same experience. So it is like that for the realized master. The prarabdha has no relevance. Its existence doesn't exist.
So very rightly pointed out. See, everything that we are experiencing is relative. It is the absolute that alone has a non-changing continuity. Everything else is relative, right? Your spaceship example is a beautiful example that shows, okay, if two people are traveling at the same speed, between them, there is no distance, there is no time. Both of them are looking at each other, they are not moving. But from the outside world, when you are looking at them, they seem to be moving. Now, we have experienced this when we look at two trains moving, right? You go two cars traveling at the same speed, and you are looking out and between the two trains. I don't know if you have experienced this. When we were children, we used to have this. We used to go by train, and another train would be coming. Both trains would be going. We would all wave with each other and continue to wave till the next station. Right? Because, oh, you have become friends, right? You have traveled for 7 steps together and you have journeyed together. But from the outside world, the boy standing in the field, he is doing ta 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 because you are moving. Same way, very rightly pointed out, that all experience that we are experiencing in the body, mind, intellect is relative. Right? It is not the subject. These are all objects. So when we use the word subjective and objective in the spiritual sense, the objective in the corporate sense, oh, you have to be objective, don't be subjective, right? Don't bring your emotions inside. No, here we are inverting it. What is subjective means? Talking about the subject. Who is the subject? I alone am the subject. Everything else is the object. Everything else. including the body, including the mind, including the intellect. And therefore, he says, when the Uday happens, but we have seen, very interestingly, if you have seen the lives of, say, Jesus Christ, what did he go through? So he went through stoning, right? He went through crucifixion. He went through doubt. People were doubting him. He was eating. He was drinking. All of that he was doing. Let us look at Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Intense pain through cancer. The body was suffering from cancer. You look at Ramana Maharshi, Swami Rama of the Himalayas, Gurudev, 3 to 4 heart attacks, one after another, bypass surgery. All of that has happened. Where is it happening? Where is it happening? In the body. Not to me. It is not happening on me. It is not happening to me. Right? Prabhakar Maharaj's example I have earlier given, where he was standing with his leg in the air, right? Because he had deep vein thrombosis. And Priya, you will know, deep vein thrombosis obviously is a very, very painful condition and also life-threatening, because that embolism can go into the lungs. That is what happened with my mother. So the embolism can go into the lung, block the pulmonary artery, and you may suffer from pulmonary embolism, suffer from breathing difficulties, ultimately die of lack of oxygen. Right? In such a situation with deep pain in his body, he's coolly reading a book. I went in, did namaskaram, and told him, "How are you?" "First class." He dropped his book on his chest and he said, "First class," both hands up. So I said, "What about the pain?" "Pain is in the leg. I am first class." Pain is in the leg. He is aware of the pain, but it doesn't bother him because he knows it is not him. He knows it is not him. Right? Acharya uses a very, yeah, go ahead.
I had asked for the contacts of Prabhakar Maharaj.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that. Yes, I'll do that. So, Gurudev has used the example of the hunter shooting the arrow. In the book, he is talking of this. That he talks about the hunter shooting the arrow. Actually, in Viveka Chudamani, in verse number 155, very beautifully it says, "Purvam janeradhi mritterapi nayamasti." Right? Before the birth, this body did not exist. Jata kshana kshana guno niyata svabhavaha. It does not exist after the death also. Purva jane radhi mritarapi nayamasti. It did not, will not exist after death. It did not exist before the birth. Jata kshana kshana guno niyata svabhavaha. It lasts only for a very, very short time. Kshana. Naiko jadascha ghatavat paridrishyamanaha. So it says that it is like a jar, right? A pot. And again, he brings in the pot because he has been using the pot as an example. And he says it is like a pot, which is jada. Svatma katham bhavati bhava vikara veta. So how can you think that this body is me? How can you even think that? If you are thinking that, you are also being stupid. And he doesn't mince words, right? He calls people moodha and so on and so forth. He uses quite colorful epithets for people who have got stuck in the body, mind, intellect. So very clearly he says that. He also, in another verse, he says to exactly about the prarabdham in Viveka Chudamani. He says, "Prarabdha sutra gratitam shariram prayatu vatishtatu goriva srakkaha." So he says very, very, very beautifully, he says this body is woven from the fiber of prarabdha. And the knower of the truth, prayatu vatishtatu goriva srak, na tat punah pashyati tattvaveta. Tattvaveta, he who knows the truth, he is not bothered. Nandatmani Brahmani Leena Vritti. He says he is completely in the quietness of Brahman. So his thoughts are reposed in the essence of Brahman, and therefore he's least bothered. He says, this body, how did I get this body? I got this body. What is prarabdha? What is prarabdha? Anybody?
जो हमारे पूर्व जन्म के कर्म है वही हमारे प्रारब्ध होते हैं.
कर्म क्या है?
Destiny, actually. Okay.
Destiny.
कर्म क्या है?
जो हम कर रहे हैं वही
हाँ?
हमारा कर्म बनता है. वो भाव जिससे हम कर रहे हैं किसी कार्य को, भाव से कर्म
करे
बनता है.
करे. और भाव कहाँ से आते हैं?
मन से आते हैं.
मन को चलाता क्या है?
बुद्धि.
हाँ?
नहीं, बुद्धि कंट्रोल करती है. मन.
वासना.
वासना. यस. वासना.
So ultimately, this body is because of the vasanas. Do you understand that? Because of the vasanas. So, prarabdha is nothing but my vasanas put into action. Prarabdha is nothing but my vasanas have been put into action. So, Marley had a beautiful, strong vasana to be petted, to sleep, and to be fed without having to work for it. So he chose that body. The vasanas drove and created the body. So he very clearly says in Viveka Chudamani, he says that the body has been woven. Prarabdha sutra grathitam shariram. Prarabdha sutra. Sutra means threads, fibers. Prarabdha sutra grathitam shariram. So he says that, so therefore then, what about the man of realization? What about him? So, Shankaracharya in his Bhashya, in his Viveka Chudamani itself, and sorry, not Shankaracharya, I don't remember, one of the Shankaracharyas of Sringeri, who has written a Bhashya on Viveka Chudamani. He uses a very an example which will strike us. It may be not like it, but it is exactly apt. He says, how much do you think about your shit after it has left the body? That is the amount of thought that the realized master puts on the body itself. Full stop.
Okay.
So, I don't remember who it was, which of the acharyas. But the Bhashya has been written by one of the Sringeri acharyas. Beautiful. It's so powerful. Just imagine. जो चीज को हमने त्याग कर दिया है, उसके बारे में हम क्या सोचते हैं? Now, and he uses this example very thoughtfully. See, sometimes we may give something to somebody, thinking मैंने त्याग कर दिया. And then you are waiting to see, oh, did he wear that clothes? Did he give me feedback? उसको अच्छा लगा कि नहीं? वो दीपक मैंने दिया था, उसने पूजा में यूज किया कि नहीं? Right? You are still with it. You have not given it up. But with the malatyaga chintanaha, he says, malatyaga chintanaha. Malatyaga, after malatyaga, we have no chintana. It is done and dusted. Khatam. Completely. So he says, that is the attitude that this person has towards the body. But will the body not continue to do what it is supposed to be doing? Of course it will continue to do. It's a trajectory. It is a trajectory. So here, Acharya, when he says that there is no prarabdha, naiva vidyate, he says, when he says naiva vidyate, it does not mean that the prarabdha stops existing from an external viewpoint. From the internal viewpoint, as Raghuji was talking, the internal viewpoint of this person is that Ashnan, Swapan, right? Yes, Minaji.
आप बता रहे हैं कि जब हमें नॉलेज हो जाती है तो प्रारब्ध खत्म हो जाता है. तो क्या जो हमारे पूर्व जन्म में हम बैकपैक लेके चल रहे हैं, हमारे जो कर्मास से जो प्रारब्ध बने,
वो संचित है. वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. मैं उसको एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ. नाउ There are karma is of three types. One, sanchita. Second, prarabdha, chalamana karma. And third, agami or kriyamana karma. Kriyamana, that I will do. Right? Now look at this. That which I did, that which I am doing, that which I will do. Correct? Now, that which I did, how did I do? How did I do that karma? With body, mind, intellect. Right? Without body, mind, intellect, you cannot do anything. So how did I do? I did with body, mind, intellect. When does it become mine? When I identify with the body, mind, intellect. Otherwise, it is not mine. Clear है logic अभी तक? Right? अब मैं बोल रहा हूं कि मैं बॉडी माइंड इंटेलेक्ट हूं ही नहीं, तो किसने किया था कर्म? खत्म हो गया. मैं बॉडी माइंड इंटेलेक्ट हूं ही नहीं, तो कल जो करने वाला हूं वो कौन कर रहा है? मैं नहीं कर रहा. कर्ता एवं भोक्ता भवति. Correct? But the karta has vanished. There is no karta, there is no doer. So there is no enjoyer. So I will do and I have done have automatically dropped off. The challenge is with I am doing. Right? I am talking to you right now. I am talking to you. Now that is this creating karma or is it not creating karma? Now, if we go back to the Bhagavad Gita and we look at
creating karma.
As long as
You are conscious about it.
As long as I am doing it. Right? But if I say it is happening, then?
So if it is done without kartatva bhava,
correct,
it doesn't accrue karma.
Which we saw in chapter 5. Jnana karma sannyasa yoga. Yes, please.
So in life situations which we come across, especially when there are, a person is unwell or something of that sort, and you are there in that presence, you may realize that it is not the body, mind, and intellect, but the person who is in front of you will not know that, because at that point, that person is going through something. How you respond to it, if you do it consciously also, is there a way in which you will accumulate more karma to what already exists, or how does that?
Okay. So basically what you have asked is, if after realization, how do my karmas affect me? After realization. Before realization, in Viveka Chudamani, he very clearly says that even after having the knowledge, not realization, having the knowledge, I am still enjoying the joys and sorrows. And he uses the word bhoga. Right? When I translate the word bhoga, I am sometimes enjoying the sorrow, I am sometimes enjoying the joy. Right? And both of them, because of my bhava, even the sorrow I am accepting, but I still am able to distinguish between joy and sorrow. I still exist as me, small me, body, mind, intellect. Right? And then you are going to keep adding into the backpack. You will keep adding into the backpack. So therefore, what does he say in chapter 9, verse number 34? Chapter 9, verse number 34. Minaji. Chapter 9, verse 34. क्या बोलते हैं वो?
भूल गई मैं.
सबसे फेवरेट वर्ड.
Verse 34 of Bhagavad Gita.
मैं तुझ में हूँ, तू मुझ में
नहीं. Verse number 34. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yukteva mamatmanam matparayanaha. Right? He says that, isn't it? May you redirect all your thoughts towards Ishvara. Since Brahman So since Brahman is a concept that I cannot hold, since Brahman is a concept that I cannot hold, I am unable to hold to that concept called Brahman. I use the intermediate Brahman with guna, right? And I use that and I say, I redirect all my thoughts to you. I redirect all my... Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to give a beautiful example here. He used to say, the anger by itself, it takes form, right? Anger by itself has form. How? Let us see. Early in the morning, you wake up and you have a fight with your spouse. Now you are angry. Now you carry that anger. The object of that anger is no longer there. But the anger is still there. Does this happen with us? Then you carry that anger, you keep feeding it. जब रात को वापस घर आते तब explosion हो रहा है. बीच में छोटे-छोटे explosion हुए. Right? You shouted at the driver, you shouted at the servant, you shouted at your colleague, you shouted at your boss. All of that happened. Why? Because you carried that anger with you. So the anger took a living entity by itself. It became a sort of living entity in your mind. Now, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, you got angry? No problem. You are still not in control of your emotions. Now, what do you do with that anger? You rechannel it. And you take that anger and you throw it at her feet. And you say, how dare you not come when I am calling you? How can you have so much audacity कि मैं तुमको बुला रहा हूं और तुम नहीं आ रही हो? You redirect that anger. You are happy, you redirect that happiness. You are sad, you redirect that sadness. So therefore, when Sri Krishna in chapter 9 verse 34 says, man mana, what happens in the mana? Emotions. Redirect all the emotions over there. Then he says, mad bhaktya, mad bhaktaha, right? My devotees, man mana bhava, mad bhakta, mad yaji, to do yagya. In chapter 4, we saw every action that we do is an yagya. Madhyaji, right? In Shiva Manasa Puja, very beautifully he says, the steps that I take every day, let them be pradakshina to you. The words that I use, let them be stotram in your favor. So while I am talking to you, my words in my mind, I am saying, these are nothing but Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. I am saying 100 different things. When I go to sleep, it is nothing but my mind having rested at you. It is my samadhi sthiti. And then he ends by saying, Atma Tvam Girija Mati. You are the Atman. My buddhi is Girija. Girija means Devi, right? And when the buddhi has become Girija, where can it go? It cannot go anywhere else. It can only remain with Shiva. That is the meaning of this particular Shiva Manasa Puja. So you must read that stotram. It's a beautiful stotra. Yes, Raghuji.
So in the one thing I've been noticing in the in our scriptures, when they say Shiva, in many places they actually do not mean Maheshwara. They actually mean supreme auspiciousness. Supreme auspiciousness, which they are actually talking about an attribute of Parabrahman.
Correct.
And when they say Namah Shivaya, is again there they're not envisaging Maheshwara. They are actually referring directly to the supreme auspiciousness.
All across. See, even when we use these words, Narayana, Vishnu, Shiva, the meanings of them, these words, when we say Shiva, but see, what happened is that the intellect of people is not ready to accept certain things. So what do? We have to understand it through the emotions. So you bring things down to the emotional plane. And when I say down, I'm intentionally using the word down because intellect is supposed to control our manas. Buddhi is supposed to control our manas. So buddhi is at a higher level. Atma is at a higher level further. Correct? So the buddhi not being able to function properly, we use the emotions. So what did we do? We took that concept of supreme, even in the Gita, what does he say? Pavitram dhamam. Pavitram, right? Purest Dhamma, right? That is what? Brahman. So the aspect of Brahman, one of the aspects of Brahman is it is the purest. Because it is purest, because it has no taint of any of the gunas. But I can't understand it. So now I need to build stories around that. Those are the Puranas. And we have taken that and put it as a personality, and we say, oh, there is a physical being called Shiva sitting in Kailasha with his matted hair and Ganga sitting on his head. All of these are symbols of certain aspects of the divine. Not one of them is a physical reality, which is where, you see, the Puranic method of worship restricts itself to the physical part only. You need to then dive deeper and go beyond. Which is why, again, if you go back to all the rituals that we do, they are all, we use things that we will throw away so that you don't get attached to it. Correct? Yes, Priya.
So every time we go back to BMI and we realize that BMI, we are dwelling in body, mind, and intellect. If we consciously do japa, will it help us? I mean, it clearly is helping me for sure. So I just want to know whether it really helps in coming out of that.
Yes. So the first thing, the process is very simple, right? I'm going to merge two methods of thinking. Now, Advaita requires no methodology. Advaita, by definition, requires no methodology, right? Because it says, just open your eyes and realize that all that you see around you is a play on a screen. Look at the screen behind. Very easy for Acharya to say this, right? Acharya came down from Kailasha and he said, look at the screen. You are all stupid, looking only at the projection. राइट सास बहू को देखकर तुम सास बन के रो रही हो, तुम्हारे साथ बैठा हुआ वो बहू बन के रो रही है, क्या कर रहे हो तुम लोग? Very easy for him to say, not easy for us. So we need a methodology. Therefore, we look at all the yama, niyama, etc., etc. Right? One of them, and the most difficult of them, is the ability to hold your mental jumping around, both of emotions and thoughts. When I say mental, I mean both buddhi and manas, in one place. Until that happens, right? You look at a lake. You have been to Kailash. You, early in the morning, when the wind in that area has completely settled down, right? What can you see? You clearly see the reflection of Kailash over there, right? You see the reflection of the full moon exactly as it is. But the moment in the morning, the temperature changes and the waves of Manasarovar start, what happens? You can't see the reflection anymore. Our mind, we need to stop the jumping around the waves, which is why Patanjali says yoga is what? Vritti nirodha. Vritti nirodha. Vritti means thoughts. Vritti means the waves. Nirodha, stopping. Now, the mind is not used to sitting in one place. So japa is the easiest method of holding the mind in one place. In chapter 10 in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, of all the yagyas, I am japo yagyaha. Why? Because it requires nothing except you to sit down and hold your thought in one place. Oh, which mantra should I use? You have been born with the Soham mantra. Use that. Doesn't matter. Even that is not necessary. Amantram aksharo nasti. There is not even a single akshara that cannot become a mantra. So you choose any of the aksharas that you want to. Okay, is enough. Right? So there was this person, he kept going to this particular guru, and he kept on saying, please give me one mantra, please give me one mantra, please give me one mantra. And this guru, he was feeling this person is a completely useless. He is not fit for receiving any mantra. I don't need to give him anything. So then one day he said, hey, wo kali billi ko bhitar rakh. And this man said, that is my mantra, kali billi ko bhitar rakh. Now he kept thinking, kali billi ko bhitar rakh, kali billi ko bhitar rakh, kali billi ko bhitar rakh. After some years, the guru went away, went back, came back, and he suddenly finding that this man, he is about to ascend onto the chariot which is taking him to heaven. Hey, how are you going there? He said, you gave me the mantra, now I'm going. Right? Now this is only a story. If you want a real story, look at Kabir. Kabir went to his guru and Ramanandji. Ramanandji said, no, I cannot take you as my student. So what did he do? He went and lay down at one of the ghats of Banaras. Ramanandji, while going in the morning to take his bath, he stepped on Kabir. When he stepped on Kabir, natural instinct of Ramanandji, he said, Ram Ram. Right? You step on a body. What do? Ram Ram. Right? And now what comes out from us is what inside us. Always remember that. Right? So, sorry, sidetrack story. Kabir ke baad वापस आएंगे. So, there was this person, he was on a coconut tree. Right? And Shiva and Parvati were going. So, Jagatpati, and Jagat Pita and Jagat Mata, they are going. Jagat Mata ko kripa se bolti hai, oh, hey Jagat Pita, this man is your devotee. He is going to fall. Why don't you save him? No, that is his karma. He cannot be saved. Well, you know how spouses are. Right? Both sides. I'm not being gender specific. Between spouses, these things keep happening. So, nahi, जिद, तुमको बचाना ही पड़ेगा, बचाना ही पड़ेगा, बचाना ही पड़ेगा. तो शिवा ने बोला, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. देखो, गिरेगा तो सही. गिरेगा क्योंकि वो उसका कर्म है. मगर हमारी कृपा है. So, if he says, Appa, I will stop him. If he says, Amma, you will stop him. He dropped and he said, Ayo. Because what is inside is what will come out. So Ramanandji stepped on Kabir and said, Ram Ram. Kabir immediately got up, caught hold of Ramanandji's feet and said, thank you for giving me the mantra. And the Diksha is over. Right? Valmiki. What was the mantra he got? His mantra was Mara. Because he was apparently so papishta that he could not utter the word Rama. So therefore, Narad Muni told him, utter the words Mara, because he used to kill people. Mara is an easy word for him. Now keep saying Rama, 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 Rama. You can hear the Rama, 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 Rama going on. And the change happened. The change happened. So how will Japa help? Japa helps you to get your mind, learn how to be in one place. Ultimately, the Japa will become Ajapa inside. And then that Japa will also die down. Because now the mind has transcended and has learned to be in one place all the time. And when that happens, automatically the effulgence will come through. हम लोग खिड़की बंद करके बोलते हैं सूर्योदय नहीं हुआ. खिड़की को खोलना पड़ेगा ना, वो तो हमारे हाथ में है. खिड़की बंद है, भाई सूर्य नहीं है. वही सूर्योदय को छोड़िए, हम तो ये भी बोलते हैं कि सूर्य है ही नहीं. There is no Surya. So, coming back to this prarabdha, the ball has been put into motion. The laws of physics, the laws of nature, the laws of Prakriti will always apply on Prakriti. You cannot change them, not even by realization. So, the example that I always give is if for 40 years I have eaten 25 rasagullas every day, and along with all the rice and all the ghee that I put on the rice. And at the age of 40, I have become 150 kilos. And then my heart starts enlarging, and I start getting obesity, fatty liver, and all the other diseases that are conditions that are associated with extra weight, including asthma and diabetes. But in that journey, somewhere in my 39th year, I have suddenly become realized, will the diabetes still not come? Of course it will come. It will no longer affect you. It will no longer affect you. The ball was put into motion. It will go its trajectory. It will go its trajectory. It cannot not go its trajectory. That is the rule of nature. Prakriti operates by its own rules. And you cannot play around with Prakriti. You cannot change the rules of Prakriti. When we go to the high altitude, when we go for trekking, what are the first things that our guides tell us? Be careful, you cannot play around with nature. First thing that the guide will tell you, you cannot play around with nature. So, nature, it will play it by its own rules. Brahman has no rules. Ishvara has no rules. So, therefore, in verse number 92, he says, Karma janmantara kritam. Janmantara kritam. Right? Earlier births. Prarabdham iti kirtitam. It is known as prarabdham. Right? It is known as prarabdham because it has been put into motion. It was in the past. Now, you have to understand, it is not necessarily only in the past. It is also right now. The effect of karma is not going to be something that you know. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, karmano gahano gatihi. Gahano gati. The path of karma is very deep. Right? I have been using the example of the Bhishma Pitamaha. It is Bhishma Pitamaha who caused the Mahabharata war. Right? I used that example last time also. He took a vow, instead of saying kingdom is bigger than my love for my father, he should have said, he said, no, daddy, you go around gallivanting with a younger woman who is younger than me also, and I give up the kingdom. Although I am the most suited to take care of the kingdom, I am ready to give it up. Net result, you have one blind guy, you have one sick guy, they have children and they fight with each other. That was the net result. But even the Devas didn't know that. When Bhishma took that vow, when Devabrata took that vow, what did people do? What did the Devas do? They showered flowers on him. Mahabharata very clearly describes that. He's standing there in the village, and there is a shower of flowers that falls on him, and there is a resounding sound, Bhishma, 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 right? Ekta Kapoor movie happened. 3 times they shouted, Bhishma, Bhishma. So the flowers fell on him. Devas also could not predict that, because he has taken this celibacy vow, there will be consequences. What will be the consequences of your action? You yourself do not know. Some actions will give result immediately, some will not. Some will not. Professor Shitanshu Chakravarti of the Management Center of Human Values, he's a cost accountant. I've lost touch with him completely. But he and I used to co-conduct a certain course. And one day he casually asked me, do you believe in rebirth? Do you believe in rebirth? So I said, I'm going to give you a statement of faith, right? Because I am a Sanatana Dharmi and I am an Advaiti, I will say, yes, of course, there is rebirth. So he said, Are Baba, you are an accountant. You should look at it from the accounting point of view. I said, what do you mean? He said, what do you do when the accounts of a particular year don't tally? You create a suspense account. What do? You try to tally the suspense account in the next year. Right? But in the process of tallying that suspense account, sometimes the suspense account becomes bigger. Right? Sometimes you can tally it. But most of the time we end up with an untallied balance sheet. So what do? You have to open another new balance sheet in the next year. God is an accountant. He has taken your karma and your karma phala. If there is something balance left over, please come back and settle your accounts. Keep coming back and settling your accounts. In the process of settling your accounts, if you add more, then you will have to come back again. And that is why Gurudev used to say, you have a chance right now. Abdi. Right now. Not in this birth. Not tomorrow. Today. Now. Wake up. Tattva Jnanudayat. You wake up right now. And therefore he says, Karma janmantara kritam prarabdham iti kirtitam tattu that but janmantara bhavat, absence of other previous births, pumsa, for the realized person, pumsa, realized person, na eva, not asti, there, karhachit, right? So he says karhichit, at any time. So he says very clearly, there is no question of any future births for the realized person. So फिर आगामी कर्म कैसे हो सकता है? Where is the question of an agami karma? Some karma. So what is he going to do? He is going to use up, he is going to tally his balance sheet in this birth. The moment of realization, the balance sheet gets tallied. The balance sheet is completely tallied. There is no more further any action happening. Now, the body will keep doing what it is supposed to do. We have seen that in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly. It says, oh, he will walk around, he will sleep, he will eat, he will drink, he will go to the bathroom, he will talk. All of that he will do. What has changed? What has changed is inside. You can't see it. Right? Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, people who have written on Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, they say that he could have, had he wanted to, chosen to remove the disease from himself. But he let it be because it's a teaching. It's a teaching. We learn that you can, in this life, live completely without having to depend upon the limitation of the body, mind, intellect. That is what they teach. So sometimes the avatar Purusha, the realized Purusha, when he goes through the so-called joys and sorrows that we are perceiving as joys and sorrows, for him it is nothing. It is just the Acharya uses a beautiful analogy in the next one. You see, there is a festival that will happen on the 8th day after Diwali. 8th day after Diwali, there is a festival that happens. It's called Gopashtami. Gopashtami. On Gopashtami, the Gopas of Vrindavan, they decorate their cows and they garland the cow and they put a tika on the cow and so on and so forth, right? The cow is not bothered. उसको गला पे माला पहनाओ, वैसे ही कर रहा है. गले से माला गिर गया, कर रहा है. उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Acharya says, once he has realized what you are doing with him, what the world is doing with him, he is not bothered. He is not bothered. Despite that, he functions in the world. For that matter, he actually functions better. Because now his mind, his body, and his intellect are in his control. Today, for you and me, our mind is not in my control. Mind is controlling me. Right? The mind suddenly will say, Rasgulla! And we are running after the Rasgulla. Correct? And the intellect is completely haywire. It is saying, oh, Rasgulla is good, Rasgulla is good. Judgments. So what has happened? Those BMI are controlling me today. Durashva in Kathopanishad. Right? In Kathopanishad we say Durashva. So that situation where we are, for him, it is the reverse. He is in complete control of his body, mind, intellect. He can put the full force of his intellect, of his full force of his emotions into doing something. Hence, these people, they create, what they create lasts for much longer than what we create. So that is up to 91 and 92 today. We will stop here. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.